welcome back to Binging the Force, a Star Wars Rewatch. I'm Michael, as always, and with me here today for episode 3 or chapter 3 of Ahsoka, we've got returning Jefferson, still
Hello.
representing Portland. We've got Kim, also known as the Sith Chick.
Hello.
And we've got Jacque, who's a three-peat now. She's been with us for Ahsoka, and she's brought along her husband, Bill.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Bill.
Yeah, glad to make this one.
Cool. Let's have some fun. And so, Jefferson, I think you have a question for us.
I do. So we've seen a fair number of characters from Rebels turn up on Ahsoka so far. They were the ones that we expected from seeing them in the trailers, but also we got a few unexpected cameos.
We answered my question, the title question from last week.
We got Clancy Brown was a surprise in the premiere episode, and we're getting a couple of fun cameos tonight. But my question for the group is, other than those that we already know for sure are happening, what character are you hoping will appear in the show? And how do you think they would fit into the story?
I'll start.
Okay, cool.
Sure.
Okay, so I've been watching Rebels, trying to get caught up on the story, so I'm getting my story's confused. But I, whether she's been shown or not, would like to see more of Mon Mothma. I'd like to see her, especially since we saw her at Andor, and her struggles. I want to know more about her.
I mean, yeah, we're going to get a little of her tonight, but yeah.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, we got a lot of her in Andor, and I loved what they did with her in Andor. I think we might do that show next. We had talked about that as a possibility. I mean, I loved the development of her as a character in Andor, where we really got to see some of her story and her interior life. So,
I'd like to see, what's his name? Callus,
the Agent Callus, the
ISD. I'd like to see what he's been up to, and he's fully committed to the rebel cause and what they had him do in the years intervening from Rebels to now. So, because we didn't see him with Zeb, hanging out with Zeb in Mandalorian.
So this is just to remind myself, because I still have not watched most of Rebels, but I just rewatched the finale. Is that the guy that was with them in the finale who was?
Yeah, he's the
blonde hair.
Yeah,
blonde hair and the sideburns.
Mm-hmm. That went off with Zeb when Zeb.
That's right. Went back with his people to his people's planet. None of which I know any of the backstory on.
You'll get there, Michael.
Well, that's a great pick. It's a great character choice. I'd like to see him too.
Mm-hmm.
Following up with that, I just will tag on there to see more Zeb, because we've only seen his sort of cameo appearance, and so we need to see more of what he's been up to. And he's clearly, kind of back in the fold with the Rebel, now the New Republic, and what does that mean for him?
Cool.
How about you, Michael?
I'm going to completely reject the premise of the question and break the format.
Okay.
I'm going to say not a Rebels person. I'm going to say, because it's an option, because he's out there and this could be done, I want to see Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo come back.
That was almost going to be my answer too, actually.
Stole it. Yeah, I mean, it's because he's out there, I mean, there's no reason not to. We've got someone who could play an older Han Solo, a post-Return of the Jedi, but not a Harrison Ford-aged Han Solo, who could be a post, marrying Leia and stuff. We don't have to see Leia, because they don't have to, figure out who they're going to get to play, a new Carrie Fisher. They could just have him appear as a general. I mean, we've already had other generals, other ships, other things going on. There's no reason why he can't come by in some form of a cameo.
Mm-hmm. And they're already talking about doing something with Donald Glover's Lando, so why not?
Yes, yeah, they are talking about doing that series. Yep.
Why not? Of course, Alden Ehrenreich. I don't know how many of you have seen Oppenheimer, but he has a small but very memorable part in Oppenheimer. which I think he's probably going to get a lot of attention. So he might price himself out of the market soon. He might.
I don't know. Disney's got some really big trucks to back up.
That's true. That is true. Although not lately, but
true.
Yeah. So I have 2 picks. Both of them are Rebels characters, and both are characters that I hope, if they do appear, will be played by their original actors. One is Rex. I would love to see Tamara Morrison appear as Rex.
I think he already is.
Yeah, I think so. But like I thought I heard that was true, but I was looking at IMDb earlier today, and he's not listed on there. So
I'd be surprised if he doesn't show up.
Yeah.
I saw the credits.
Mm-hmm.
So
but my other choice, my more kind of wishful thinking pick is Kanan Jarrus. I'd like to see Freddie Prinze Jr. appear as Kanan Jarrus. Just he could appear as a Force ghost. It would make
or a flashback, or
a flashback scene. But I think a Force ghost would be more fun, so he could be part of the immediate story and not just a flashback.
Part of the training or something.
Right. He's the only major Rebels character that we haven't seen at all yet.
I mean, for me, it would be interesting mostly if they did it in relation of like some recorded message or something that could be played for Jason to see his father, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would, something like that. Something where he doesn't have to be a main character, because having a ghost as a main character just doesn't work, I don't think. But I would like to see him make an appearance just to have get the whole band back together.
I'd love for any of these characters to reappear, but also make sense. I would rather not see them at all and have the story be good and coherent than to start throwing, things at us just because fans want to see it.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like the Fox X-Men movies?
Yeah.
Where tons of fan favorite characters were used.
Visit these characters anytime. I don't need to see them just to see them.
Yeah, that's basically what they did. Is they would throw in like whole bunches of mutants in there that were like, oh, I recognize that character. Are they going to do something cool with them? No.
Yeah, and we talked about that a teeny bit last time. We had a comment from a viewer about how there's a rumor that the masked Inquisitor character is Starkiller from the Force Unleashed video games. And I figured out today how that rumor got started. Sam Witwer, who plays Starkiller in those games, is credited as additional voices in the credits for Ahsoka. But he's done a lot of
done a ton of voice characters in the Star Wars.
He's most well known for he plays Darth Maul in all the animated stuff.
Yeah.
But that to me would be a really distracting and unnecessary cameo if that were true. It wouldn't move the story forward, and people who didn't know who he was would just go, well, who's this guy?
Well, the character does have a name. I mean, the name is said in the last episode, and it's said very clearly in this episode. So, I mean, I think it's Maris or something like that. It's something that starts with an M, but I mean, the character does have a name.
Right.
We just don't know whether it's an Inquisitor or not. I mean, obviously, they're using a Inquisitor type saber, but
and we don't know whether it's Sam Witwer under the mask or not.
I mean, well, that could be interesting, although it's a very slim body for Sam Witwer.
No, it's actually, there is a credit for the stunt person who's playing the character. But point being that would be distracting and unnecessary. I think, to Bill's point about these little guest appearances are fine when they make sense. Like Clancy Brown appearing in the premiere made perfect sense for that scene.
And it was cool that they didn't tease it at all, that we had no idea that he was going to appear. And I will take Clancy Brown doing anything.
Yeah, me too.
I would go watch Clancy Brown open up a shopping mall, Well, cool. Good question. Let's go ahead and get into the episode tonight. Chapter 3, Time to Fly. Okay, so we're getting our recap of last week, previously on Ahsoka.
Stuff you need to remember for tonight's episode to make sense.
Right. Yeah, this time we actually needed the recap. We didn't in the first 2 episodes. For the second episode, we needed a recap for something you just showed us. Like,
do we know what the cat's name is yet?
No, I don't think they've said what the cat's name is yet.
Was there a named cat in Rebels? Because again, I still have not.
I don't think so.
No, there wasn't.
Okay. I think we don't know this character, whether it's what its gender is whether it's male or female.
The masked character, you mean? Yeah,
The masked.
yeah. It's could very indeterminate. It could be anybody in there.
Yeah.
Wasn't somebody last week saying it's Luke in there? We know it is.
Right.
His name could just translate into "made you look,"
or he could end up being one of those, like the sequel movies. Each one has a really bizarre stormtrooper cameo, like Daniel Craig in Force Awakens, and I know there are a couple other just weird, really famous person under a mask. Maybe it's one of those.
Yeah, so we do get into it a little bit today about her being a Padawan, and whether she's a Force wielder, and I have some good thoughts on this.
Okay, good.
Some thoughts that actually make me happy and make me trust the Filoni even more.
Excellent. So I figured something out that I'm very proud of. After you talking about rewatching the Rebels finale, I did the same thing. As soon as we finished watching this episode yesterday, I just put the Rebels finale on and watched it. And I worked out that the first episode of this takes place actually the first two episodes of this take place right before the very end of Rebels. And that end scene in Rebels of Sabine is also the end scene of the last episode. So I think it's shot for shot. It's the same scene. So we're meant to blend time
because it is a flash forward.
Yeah. So I think what we're meant to take from that is that the first two episodes of Ahsoka actually take place right before that end scene in Rebels.
I could see that. I mean, I just assumed that they were like aping a moment, that there was a moment that had happened between them there, and then there were years of her training, and then it went badly, and then now we're reconnecting.
No, I think it's meant to be the exact same scene because it's shot for shot. It's totally identical. She looks exactly the same. Yeah. Every shot is the same.
Well, we're lucky that Sabine gets motivated by people pooping on her. Because Huang is not being nice to her at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but we are getting to see training, which is pretty cool. And I think this just reconfirms this is not an Ahsoka series.
Yeah, I mean, it should almost be called Sabine.
Yeah. It's definitely Rebels season 5, but I mean, so far it's pretty much a Sabine Wren show,
Right. And I did, to Kim's point, watching this yesterday, I did find myself saying, Jesus, Ahsoka, do you have to be such a jerk about the training?
Yeah, there's something very telling in this, and backing up a bit, just before this scene, he refers to this training as Zatoichi, which is a new name. They have it, and this is very similar coming up to what we saw in A New Hope with Luke Skywalker's lightsaber training with Obi-Wan. And while that also seemed very painful, I think what we're seeing here is probably much more painful to Sabine than getting zapped by that little bot was for Luke, because let's watch this play out a little bit and I'll comment a little more.
Well, I know Luke, I mean, with him, he had no prior expectations. He came into this not knowing anything about Jedi or Jedi training. So he didn't come with it with a chip on his shoulder or an ego about it. Sabine comes to everything with a chip on her shoulder and an ego about it. So, I mean, everything for her that kind of, knocks her down a peg, has always been an issue for her. Because I have seen the episode where Kanan was training her with the Darksaber, So, I mean, she definitely chafes against, this kind of training. My frustration with the scene is I kept going as I was watching this scene going, say it. And she never says it. Trust your instincts.
and did we all get the in joke, the Zatoichi?
Oh, the blind swordsman.
Zatoichi was a long series.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Zatoichi's a long series.
I heard the name, but I know I didn't get the reference.
Yeah, it's a series of films about a blind swordsman. There's over 30 movies in the series. It's a really long running.
Wow.
So
that one's Zatoichi, I believe, but clearly the name is very similar.
Yeah.
And in fact, this every one of the Star Wars series have had some sort of background in common previous film and TV themes, whether you've got the sort of Mandalorian, Man with No Name, spaghetti Western feel,
Lone
the
Wolf and Cub.
serial feel of the Clone Wars. And I think looking at how Ahsoka has been building, it's actually being built on the premise of kabuki theater. You have
Ahsoka's wearing tabby, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's she's got that as her footwear.
the original kabuki was actually all women performers before they were eventually disallowed in Japanese culture, and then it became all male performers. But you have largely a female cast here, and just the structure of slow build, and then what we're going to see more of in this episode of a stronger, let's just let the characters perform and show what they can do, which we're going to get into a bit later. So no, I think that there's some kabuki background to this, even if it's just inspirational. I'm not saying that it's
definitely
a mirror. It's just the inspiration of.
Oh, I mean, Kurosawa obviously was a clear influence in the original trilogy, and I mean, Mandalorian is Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yes.
And if you want a real treat, watch Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress, and Lucas swiped so much material from The Hidden Fortress for the very first Star Wars film. It's actually kind of appalling how much he just blatantly stole from that movie.
I keep wanting to say Rebel Fleet, New Republic Fleet. I mean,
New Republic Fleet, yeah, they're legitimate now. They're not rebelling against anything.
How many decades have we waited for stuff like that?
I know.
Fleet. I mean, I know we got it in episode 9, but that doesn't count.
And Kim, here's your Mothma appearance.
Yeah,
this was neat. I enjoyed seeing this. It sort of reinforces that all the different series that they're doing are part of one story without getting too gimmicky about it,
And that the one constant in the universe is horrible bureaucracy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The scene is somewhat painful in many ways because of all that they've achieved to get to this point, and then they just fall back on the pride of what they've accomplished and not believing that anything could threaten that, which is the same failing that the Empire had. And in some ways, it's a bit of a trope. But then, of course, we look at our own society, and we've seen this all too often. And maybe that's why it hurts so much.
Well, it's the same failing that the previous Senate and the Jedi Council had. It's all about hubris. I mean, it's all about never expecting that the enemy's going to show up and defeat you if you're not ever vigilant.
Well, she said that they're working at every level of everything. We have Imperials working. So if you have things out of the shipyard, the senator is like, I don't, that's nonsense. She also doesn't think that there'd be people that would stay loyal to the Empire. Like, they just don't. And who knows? These guys could be with them. Who knows?
Yeah.
The way they're giving the side eye.
Definitely the jerk senator here.
Yeah.
There's always 1 or 20
or more.
1 or 20.
Yeah, so Hera's trying to convince them to help Ahsoka with the mission. I mean, it's like they now know that there's an Imperial thing going on. They are trying to get Thrawn to come back, and that would be bad.
I think this guy, he's major b-hole right now.
Yep.
Yeah, this was great. I loved Hera's slap down of this guy.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, long live the Empire is not the slogan you want to hear from people who have pledged their loyalty to you.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a great exchange.
Yeah, we're grateful for your service,
it's like whoa.
Yeah, let me blow some smoke.
Sorry, what was that, Jackie?
I was just saying, it's like then the other senators are coming here like, whoa, let's calm down a moment.
Yeah, let's not go that far, that fast. There's, jumping the gun.
Yeah, Thrawn is not your typical Imperial officer. We're really building this up. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I would say the speculation is still Thrawn does not become the main villain here. I think this whole series is a setup for setting up Thrawn to be the main villain of the movie.
Or Thrawn's series.
Well, but we know this is leading up to a Dave Filoni movie. So we don't know what the plot of that movie is. I still think it's got to be Heir to the Empire.
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, how many Star Wars projects has Lucasfilm started and then canceled?
Sure.
So I don't know if I would rely too much on that.
Well, I don't know if we should rely, but I think Filoni's relying on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know if he should either.
Right. I mean, that could be a problem if he spends this entire time just building up to a movie that never ends up happening. That would,
Right.
Well, and I think
he kind of did that with Clone Wars. It kind of stopped and didn't get that last season until years later.
Jason.
Yay!
Yeah. No, there he is. We were just
Answered my primary question from last episode.
Mm-hmm.
So he has green hair, but he's completely human other than that.
And not dead.
Genetics are complicated.
I was very excited to see that, Jason was both not dead and not inexplicably wiped from canon.
Right. Maybe the head tentacles grow in later.
Maybe.
Well, but I mean, it's Kanan's son too. So.
Sure. So maybe they'll be stumpy head tentacles. Probably not, though.
So I wonder if he has the Force.
That's
no. He wants to be a Jedi like my father before me.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what they're drinking. It looks like sake.
It's probably not sake. This is Disney Plus after all. I'm sure it's something.
Come on, it's sake.
Something non-alcoholic.
She's Mando. She's drinking.
So okay, so we have our conversation here. She cannot use the Force. So how did she get to be a Jedi?
Don't feel it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't feel it. But we do. She goes back here to the Force resides in all living things, even you.
Side eye.
So, I mean, we've talked about how Filoni has in the past essentially been on a mission to redeem certain things that have happened in Star Wars. I mean, essentially his Clone Wars series redeems the prequel trilogy. I've heard many people, myself included, who say that like once you watch Clone Wars, you understand the prequel trilogy. I mean, it doesn't change it. It still is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put it into the larger context of the story that he built in Clone Wars, it makes you appreciate it and like it so much more.
It does. It makes them more of makes those two movies, episodes 2 and 3, makes them into bookends.
Yeah. And so we know now. Sorry, go ahead.
And more importantly, what it does is I think it takes the pressure off of those two movies. Those two movies don't have to be as important because they're just the prologue and the epilogue to the series.
So with here, we know that he's pulling in Thrawn. When I rewatched the end of Rebels, he even mentioned Pelion, and I'm like, okay, he's really pulling in the Zahn trilogy, and so he's kind of redeeming that in terms of it had been made non-canon with the rest of the EU. So he's pulling all of those elements back in. So here's for his trifecta, that conversation we just had about, the Force resides in everything. You can do it. And Sabine is trying to pull the cup. And obviously that's going to be an ongoing thing as, she says to the cup in the next scene, it's like, you win this time. She can't get the cup to come, but she's teaching her how to use the Force. I think Filoni is redeeming the M word. I think Filoni is rewriting the history there, that the M word never happened.
I think you're just too stuck on the M word.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I think
you're too
potentially
stuck on the M word.
Can go.
Well, I think what he's doing is bringing it back to what it was originally, which is why I have a problem with the concept of the M word, is that originally with Jedi, and this is why I fell in love with Jedi and why it's my favorite thing in the saga and what I love about Star Wars is that to be a Jedi, you just had to have the dedication. You just had to have the strength of will. You had to have the training. You had to have the respect for the Force. It was a matter of achievement. It was not a matter of birth and not a matter of your genetics, and the prequel trilogy and the midichlorians destroyed that as a concept. To me, that completely destroys the entire nobility of the Jedi as a group of people who have all mastered this unseen Force by their training and by their strength of will, not by the nature of their birth and not by the magic of their birth.
So you're saying they're like athletes then?
Basically,
they're like NFL, NBA. They're because they practiced a lot. They had the dedication and the desire.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that that's what he's doing here with Sabine. I mean, I think that he's redeeming that and rewriting the canon there and kind of rewriting it out of existence because he's never said the word.
Yeah.
We
I
don't
think
use
it's
the word
also a bit
anymore.
that he's trying to show that Ahsoka is also a new and different kind of Jedi.
Yeah.
That she has seen what the Jedi Council resulted in,
Yep.
and she is more interested in choosing people based off of their inner worth and their potential more so than what their genetic makeup or invented words
Bingo.
mean.
Mhm.
Because
Well,
because the force is there. The force resides in all living things. It's in the rock.
Is a rock living though?
Mhm. Well, but it's a force that binds us. It's there for all living beings to tap into. So it shouldn't require this special amount of this thing in your genes. So I think they're going to do that with Sabine is show that if she can master the force, anyone can master the force.
Well, and I think he's also using that idea because we all know too, he loves the extended universe. And those books had Jedis that were competent and specialized in areas. Like if you go back and look at the original children of Han and Leia in the extended universe, one of them was good with animals, one of them was good with technology, and certainly Sabine is definitely the technical person and has an aptitude for technology.
Yep. So we get our first actual space battle, and it took 3 episodes, and we've got a space battle.
It's awesome.
It's a great space battle, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well worth the wait.
Getting the tail gun.
And these ships are so cool.
Don't get cocky, kid.
There's a great moment here. I think we might have lost
That's
it
what I said.
in the subtitles, but where Huyang has to scold Ahsoka and Sabine for bickering instead of working together during
Yeah.
this fight.
I think it's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, she's still trying to be the Jedi Master.
Yeah.
And,
Meanwhile, there are people shooting at us.
exactly, and maybe it's also just kind of not acknowledging. Okay, here's one thing that Sabine's actually better at than you are.
Yeah.
I'm not given this scene. I don't know. She doesn't seem to be that good at it. And that's,
Yeah.
wasn't she a better gunner in the show in Rebels?
Yeah, but she's trying to listen to what
I
Ahsoka's
guess.
telling
Yeah.
her
to
and
distract
not doing what she knows her instincts are. So she's fighting her muscle memory because she's trying to listen to her master. And then
Right,
Huyang's saying, like, you guys are just arguing and you're going to die. So you got to work together. You're a team. Do it.
You see,
And they
Ahsoka
do.
needs to stop seeing it as a teachable moment.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and Ahsoka's been on her own for so long as well. She's also has to relearn to be a teacher again, and that she's responsible to work with someone and not just expect to be followed.
Yeah. But this is Star Wars, man. We got
Yeah.
space battles. We got small ships flying fast. It's an air duel.
Yeah, that's great stuff. This is the stuff that Star Wars is built on, these great
Yeah.
little rapid cuts. And
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen that type of ship before, have we? I'm not the person. I know there are people with encyclopedic knowledge who see a ship like that and they're like, oh, this was in that book or this was in that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't recognize them. No.
I don't recognize any of these.
And I still can't
Almost
remember
looks
the.
like World War II fighters.
Yeah, they do a bit.
Yep.
Or space
was-
shuttle.
Which was what Lucas used in the footage for that when they originally staged the battles and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That
it's always been this great mix of all the best adventure genres.
Yeah.
It's westerns and samurai movies and World War II all mushed together.
Yep. It's the thing that set Star Wars originally apart from previous sci-fi. Like previous sci-fi never had dogfighting. Star Trek never had dogfighting.
Yeah.
It was slow-moving ships shooting at each other. It was battleships, basically.
Yeah, the fundamental difference is that Star Trek is boats and Star Wars is planes. That's the critical difference.
Yep.
Well, I think it's also
Navy
a matter of whether or not you consider Star Wars actually sci-fi, because I'm going to drift it more into the fantasy genre than I am in the sci-fi genre.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different discussion.
I mean, you can go down that rabbit hole.
Merrick is what they call him.
Yeah, and we heard his voice for the first time today, but of course it was a distorted electronic voice. So.
Right.
I just hope they're not building him up too much, or we're not building him up too much, and Marok turns out to be not important at all.
Yeah.
But he's kind of got the Boba Fett thing going right now, where you remember in the original films, everybody loved Boba Fett because he was so mysterious. He was only in the movie for like a minute and a half.
And then we got Book of Boba Fett.
And in the original films, Boba Fett turned out to not really be a very important character at all. Yeah. And so hopefully this.
Yeah, so you have all these younger kids going, I don't know what the deal is with Boba Fett. I don't know why he was such a big character. And I'm like, because you didn't have to wait 2 years to figure out what's going to happen. And he's like, dude, you weren't even there. So shut up.
Yeah, you didn't have that time where you just got your own headcanon and it became the coolest character ever because you built it up, in your own imagination.
Yeah. And he had a cool ship. So
So my hope is with this guy, they'll either do something with him or get him out of the show.
Or kill him off. Yeah.
They need to
he could just stay around to taunt us.
Yeah, that could well be
infinitely guessing who he is.
Book of Marok, 2035.
Yeah, complete. Okay, so they destroyed her ship.
It's just an Ewok.
What were your guys' thoughts when you saw that?
Oh, there was no way that it was destroyed. I mean,
I love this though. This was great. The idea that they've knocked the power out, so the larger ship can't detect it anymore.
Can't detect them, yeah. And she's like, "Let me turn on wing." And she's like, "No, don't. Like that's. Don't worry about it."
It's like, don't worry about him, and he'll only just razz us.
Right. He'll just get in the way. You almost got them. Yeah, I can see them.
I'm really liking, I can't remember her name, but I'm really liking the Padawan, the evil Padawan.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a breakout character so far.
Her last name's Hottie or something like that. I don't
know. Yeah, I know the name has been there in the subtitles.
Mm-hmm. If I was still a kid collecting Star Wars action figures, I'd know. That's
okay. And when she said this, I was about to lose my mind. Like she goes, "I'll be right back." Like, where the hell are you gonna go? That means you're gonna go outside.
Right. She's gonna be the coolest. Gonna do the coolest Jedi thing ever.
Yeah,
and the coolest spacesuit ever.
Yes.
Like I can't wait to see
the head tail.
Yeah, they don't really do this much in Star Wars. They very rarely even acknowledge any of the actual physics of outer space.
But this is just so darn cool.
She's on the wing. What?
Yeah.
She's blocking blast with the sabers in space.
Yeah, with my gravity boots.
Mm-hmm. And too small a target for the ships to be able to hit because they keep firing away.
Block laser blast with the lightsabers. That's just so cool.
And I'll take down that ship.
It takes out a ship. Yeah.
She's like, what the? Oh, she thinks Ahsoka died.
Did you fix the ship yet? Yeah, and at least now we finally get to see Sabine good at something. Like she is actually good at this. She knows how to fix stuff.
Well, we got to see her solve the puzzle in the first episode.
Yeah.
So we get to see what her strengths are.
I just kind of mean within the context of this episode. This whole episode was showing her being bad at things, and
that's true.
You're good at something.
Nice for them to turn that around. And then
that is nuts.
Yeah.
Nice trick. Got any more?
Yeah, and she's quick costume change there.
No, she's still wearing the spacesuit.
Yeah, that's a very cool
spacesuit. Not the helmet that she has to get around her trindles.
Yeah, that must be a bear to get on and off.
That's also one of the first times we see a hint of the early Ahsoka. Up until this point, she's been very calm and reserved and not at all like her Clone Wars self or
Yeah.
even who she's developed into by the time
Very
we
true.
get to Rebels. And then if you've read the
Mostly
book
just-
about her, then even through that,
Whales.
I know
This
they have
was
a name,
great.
but I'm
I
going to
love
call
this.
them space whales.
the space whales were.
Again, not having rewatched the final episode until like last week. I mean, like I had totally forgotten about space whales, and I'm assuming that there were episodes leading up to that telling you more about them.
Yeah,
But
they're a bit.
Yeah, a couple.
but we get to see them a bit in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
True, yes, and that's the thing is at the time I had no clue. Like everyone was getting excited about that and seeing that, I didn't know what the deal was. You know, now I know what the deal was.
Hate when you feel left out. I hate that.
Well, I mean that's what people who watch this who have never watched any of Rebels feel pretty much all the time.
Well, in this case, though, with this particular scene, it doesn't matter whether you know what these are. Or
Yeah.
not. It just makes for a really
Yeah.
exciting action set piece.
But if you
Keeps
do,
them stuff to have
space
to
whales.
dodge.
But it's
Yeah,
true
if-
that Star Wars, like the Minox and the other thing, they've had space creatures and stuff in other movies. So it's the
That's
same
just part
kind
of
of
Star
thing.
Wars. You expect to see this kind of thing, whether it's
Exactly, and this is
history or
the
Not
kind
out
of
of the
thing
ordinary.
you
It-
only get this in Star Wars. Where else do you get
Space whales.
space car chases through the tentacles of giant space whales? You don't.
Well,
you
and the
don't
fact
really
that
get
they're
that
there,
anywhere.
because the central MacGuffin of this is how to get back Ezra and Thrawn, and they were taken away by the space whales.
Right. So this is clearly a clue.
Yeah.
But
So, unless someone could talk me out of it, I'm pretty sure that when this gets put out on YouTube tomorrow, the title of this episode is going to be Space Whales.
as it should. Yeah.
So for those that, like you said, you hadn't seen Rebels until recently, and for people coming to Ahsoka that don't have a background in all of this, do you think it works for them? Is this something that you have to know in order to enjoy?
Yeah, I know Kim feels that way very strongly, but I
I'm
mean,
pretty clueless, and I love Star Wars, and these are all great sceneries, ships, costumes, sets, all of it. I would just enjoy it, and if I didn't have that back knowledge, and I didn't have someone sitting next to me going, "Ooh, ah," every 2 minutes, I think I'd be okay.
Well, I think so too, because if you look at A New Hope, you definitely have a background there. I mean, it even starts off, and at the time, they weren't going to make episodes 1, 2, and 3. It was episode 4. You're like, you mean there's 3 before this that you're not even going to tell me about?
Yeah.
You don't get Obi-Wan's backstory. You don't know what that is. You don't know, obviously, who Luke's father is at this point in time. So there's a whole lot of backstory to the original, to episode 4, that obviously
we didn't know.
you didn't need, or we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah,
there's a difference. There's a difference. Episode 4 tells you all you need to know to enjoy that episode. It gives you everything in dialogue, all the information you need to have to appreciate the story that you're watching. This does not.
I don't agree with you.
Oh, well, that's okay. I mean, that's that's all right not to.
Well, I guess if you're the one that doesn't have the background on this, you're the one to tell us, because we've all seen all this before.
Well, I've also watched a lot of other people's discussion reviewers and real reviewers who I respect and everything, and they've been very clear about that like, if you come to this without having watched 50 other hours of television prior to this, you don't know why you're caring about these people or what they're doing, and it does not give you that information. It does not even in dialogue say, hey, this is Jason, the son of this person, Kanan, who was a Jedi, which you can do in a couple seconds. Movies do that. Movies do that where you go into the movie or the TV show and they give you the information you need to know to appreciate what you're watching. This is
Even
not
if it's
doing
on a
that.
long scroll before the film
Don't
starts.
think you need to know that Kanan is his dad just yet. And you don't know that they're not going to explain that.
Yeah. But
And
until they do,
there's
you
so
can
much
appreciate
on
it.
the internet now, like with Wikipedia and stuff, that you can say, oh, Jason, let's look up Jason Sandula.
Yeah, but nobody wants to
I
look
know.
up stuff when they're watching a show.
Well, and the average viewer, I guarantee you, is not going to
Right.
Wikipedia to look this stuff up.
I'm the viewer that does that, yes, but
Yeah,
I am
it's
not
hard.
the average viewer.
Since we're all devoted fans, it's hard. It's sometimes very difficult to put ourselves in the head of the casual viewer.
Yeah.
But the casual viewer is the vast majority of the audience
Yeah.
for this stuff. There are not enough. If it was only diehard Star Wars fans, there's not enough diehard Star Wars fans. It wouldn't be commercially viable. You've got to have that general audience too,
Mhm.
who are not going to look at
story. I mean,
Yeah.
this is
we are missing some cool stuff here.
Yeah.
Where he's basically saying he knows the Jedi are in the forest. He knows they're alive, and he's like, hunt them.
Right, and this is the part of the story that does make sense without any backstory, because these are the new characters, and
And he's so cool.
He is very so cool.
Well, yeah, but if you didn't watch the Rebels, then all these other characters would be new characters to you, and you're just watching a story. So how is that different? Just because this new guy has no backstory, it's okay.
Because the story presupposes that you have to know stuff about them to care about them, whereas the new characters you don't.
Right.
There's a difference. There's a difference. I'm expected to care more about the main characters than I am about the secondary characters.
Right.
I suppose, but I still there's a balance to me here, because I want the story to work. I want something like this to happen on its own without you needing to sit there with a dictionary to go through it.
You want it to bring new viewers in.
Like Game of Thrones, where you had to have the map and you had to use their app to go where are they going and how far are they and what's the timeline. Yeah.
But I think
and there was some of that there with Game of Thrones. That I mean, if you came into later seasons of Game of Thrones, it's a lot of the character story is not going to resonate with you. You had to watch the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you can like these characters without having their backstory. It's definitely going to help, but also kind of in line again with Japanese feeling is it is very intuitive knowledge. There are methods of storytelling where they say or do one thing and an entire cultural background is behind that, and they don't need to explain these things. This also gets into a critique on, what is internationally called the American audience, and how our storytellers sometimes feel the need to hit us over the head with plot and exposition and foreshadowing so that we get it. And we've
dialogue,
kind of used to that as well.
Every little thing, they're doing and get spoon fed everything. Yeah. I don't feel that you have to have seen Rebels to enjoy this.
I agree, although I have, but I like you mentioned with the spaceships. I don't have an encyclopedia knowledge of Star Wars. I just enjoy it.
Right.
And so, but I also enjoy good storytelling, and there's not everything Star Wars is a winner for me. But so far I'm enjoying Ahsoka. A bit slow start, but this episode definitely gave us
ramped up
a lot of reward.
Yeah. I would just say go back and watch episode 4. Go back and watch episode 1 of The Mandalorian. There's a reason why those resonated with larger mass audiences and not just fan audiences. Mandalorian episode 1, you didn't have to know anything about Star Wars to like it.
That's true. And episode 4, there wasn't even going to be originally he wasn't even going to do a title crawl. That title crawl that explains the story was something that the studio made him do. And he wasn't going to do it initially. His idea was just that he would drop you in the middle of everything and make the audience, he would trust the audience to figure it out for themselves. And in fairness, I don't think that title crawl actually helps. I don't think it tells you anything useful. I think the movie would be fine without it.
No, because from a character standpoint, you get all the information you need to care about the characters and to care about whether they succeed or fail.
Yeah. Do you know what the ratings are on this one compared to the other ones, Michael?
I saw today that it's along the lines of Andor, so not Mandalorian numbers. So they're a little disappointed, but people are chalking it up to the fact that people started with episode 1 and then didn't know the background, and then just stopped watching it.
Interesting. I mean, I would hope. I mean, the hope would really be that people would watch the first episode and then start watching Rebels. You know,
Right? But there's also always
it's
going
all
to
right
be
there. I mean, you've got the streaming service. You've already paid for it. You know, you can just go right to it, and I'm sure it tells you, hey, you know, you should probably watch Rebels.
Some people don't want to watch cartoons.
Yeah, people.
You know?
That's it exactly. Is there's going to be a resistance to the animated format that has nothing to do with the content or the writing.
Yeah.
It's just that there's a huge chunk of again that casual
like the ships look like play school toys. You know what I mean? And people will be like, "Oh, that's not Star Wars."
And see, that's the thing for me. I mean, I guess I just look at things differently. I mean, I'm not. You know, I love spaceships. I love the visuals. I love Ahsoka doing the flips and the stuff in space, and I love that stuff. But it's not going to be my primary determining factor as to whether, you know, I consider something a good show or not. For me, it's always going to come down to character and to a lesser extent story. But for me, it's primarily going to come down to character. Is especially if I'm watching an adventure story, something is good or bad based on whether I care why the characters get to where they get to, and whether I care whether they get there or not. You know. But that's just my specific, you know, thing. I don't want us to get too sucked down that road, because we could spend every single episode debating about that with this show. I mean, the show kicks ass, you know. Ahsoka kicks butt. I mean, the character is really cool. The Padawan is really cool. Sabine is really cool. I love the show, and you know, and I'm excited about the show. I'm enjoying every episode. You know, like I said, I'm just trying to. That's the thing, is like, you know, in loving something, you want it to succeed, and in order to succeed, it needs to work for a mass audience, and that's the only reason why it's a question worth talking about. But I don't want to like.
I think people bash it over the head too much, and I think one podcaster says this, and someone goes, "Oh yeah, that's kind of right."
Mm-hmm.
Like when one of the movies came out, they're like, "Oh, that was exactly like Empire Strikes Back. The rhythm, the everything, the blah, blah, blah." And it's like, okay, so then I hear that from one person and then I hear it again. So there's just a bunch of parrot heads out there.
Right.
And no one wants to go against the grain and be like me and say, yeah, you don't have to have seen it.
And that's why your opinion is absolutely valid, you know?
But yeah, I'm not going to go with the majority on that one.
Yeah, you're well, yeah, and I'm not either.
I'm Taurus.
There's a reason even we get together here.
As valid as mine. So
yeah, I mean, there's a reason we get together here and we're talking about this amongst ourselves. It's
exactly.
We enjoy this, and you know, that's in the end, that's really what's important, is whether or not you enjoy it and you're having a good time. And you want to share that with other people. And of course, because of the internet, there's a ton of people out there that just want to share how they hate things.
Yeah.
But in this particular instance, I think we'll just go with have a good time. If you're enjoying this, then great. You know, I like dissecting stories. I like dissecting characters and looking at backgrounds and trying to figure out what resources and what inspirations were behind certain things, or did a writer just invent something new, or maybe even be inspired and didn't know that they were pulling it from something else. But these are all fun things for me to talk about, whether it be Star Wars or anything, is just what is the story elements behind it, how is it constructed, and does it work? And so far, even with the background that you might need for Ahsoka, it's working for me.
Yeah, for me, it's just, to me, the appeal of Star Wars to me has always been the environment that it takes place in. That's the brilliance. That's the genius move that George Lucas made, was creating this world. And Star Wars has never been guilty of brilliant writing, I don't think.
Sure.
And I don't think it needs to be. I think that's fine. I don't need brilliant writing from Star Wars. What I need is that texture and that environment And tonight I got to spend 37 more minutes in that world, and that's a win for me, you know. And that's why, like, the Star Wars stuff that I haven't cared for has been the stuff, like, I'm not a huge fan of the prequels, but not for the reasons that most people are not fans of the prequels. My problem with the prequels is that the environments are too obviously fake and computer generated. I don't think the technology was quite as there as they thought it was. And so I watch those and I know I'm in a computer simulation. I'm in the Matrix. With the later stuff and with this show that we watched tonight, I don't get that. They've got it. They've got the stuff down to where I can be immersed in that environment. And that's all I really need. I need them to convince me that I'm in that galaxy far, far away for however long they want me to be there. And
well, some of that's about being 7 years old again, too. You know?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's definitely the case with Star Wars. I mean, but that's why it's cool to have different perspectives, you know, and having different takes on it. You've got yours of, you know, what's important to you and what makes Star Wars work for you. Kim's got what works for her. I've got what works for me. You know,
Sure.
Bill and Jacque have what works for them. That's the beauty. I mean, is that, you know, Star Wars is for everyone, you know, and everyone can come to it from their own take on it.
And it can be, it's robust enough that it can give us all what we want. I think.
Like you said, he created such a grand tapestry that there can be so many things. You can have Western Star Wars, you can have space Star Wars, you can have samurai Star Wars. You know, it can all be Star Wars. It can all fit within that grand scheme there.
Usually within 1-2 minute scene, you can have all of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll go ahead and take it out of there. I'm just glad to not have to do another show for another week. Now that we've done like this 3 times within 1 week because of Disney. Like, you know, I think it was still smart for them to do the 2 episodes, but that put a lot on us. I'm really happy to get a break between this and the next show. Go ahead and support us by liking and subscribing on YouTube at Binging the Force. And if you want to listen to us on audio in your car or something like that, or while you're running, find us on any podcast clients, look for Binging the Force. And if you want to buy t-shirts and stuff, we've got that at bingingtheforce.myspreadshop.com. Well, thank you, Jefferson. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Bill and Jacque. Thanks for joining us for the first time, Bill. And we'll see you all next week on Binging the Force.
Sounds great.